I'm going to start with a conversation that I had with somebody that you might recognize as an NFL Hall of Famer, and I recognize from playing with him on our weekend basketball runs, Terrell Owens, who was actually drafted in 1996 to the NFL, the same year that Kobe was drafted to the NBA, and he developed a friendship with Kobe over the years and has a really unique perspective toward his experience of watching Kobe develop both as a superstar athlete on the court and as a person. You got picked up by the Niners. He got drafted by Charlotte, traded to LA. Coming into both your leagues at the same time, had you heard of him yet?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I think everybody realized that he was one of those phenoms. You know, everybody obviously had so much expectations of him. Obviously, the organization, considering they drafted him when they did. And then you started to hear all the stories about, what a phenomenal talent he was and how he patterned his game after Michael Jordan. And so for me, one thing that stuck out in my mind was, I think early on when he was, I think it was his rookie year, and he was playing in the game, and they were going to him, and he was taking all these shots, and he was missing. He was airballing.
Yeah, against the Jazz. Right.
It was one of those moments. It's like, you really didn't know what the future held for him, and it was like, man, me watching the game, it's like, man, there's so much tremendous pressure on him just as a high schooler, and they're looking for him to take game-winning shots. And the thing was, he wasn't shying away from taking those shots. And so it's, obviously you fast forward and you think about, the people that critique his game and they make such comparisons with whether it's him, Michael Jordan, or they try to rank, him, Mike and LeBron, in no particular order. But you think about how much pressure that had to be on him as a high schooler to not, like I said, have your team and organization look to you to take those shots. And then you just have the balls enough to take them, and, whether you make it or not, you're going to take it. And so for him, that was sort of like a microcosm. We saw a short window of who he was.
Mm-hmm. And when you were coming up in your early years and into your career, as your career kind of mirrored his, were there moments where you would see like his highlights or him playing, and it would spark something in you?
When you talk about the totality and the entirety of his career, I like it because it's not squeaky clean. It's not squeaky clean. He's not perfect, and I like that. And for me, I'm the same way. I'm not a perfect person, and we all aren't perfect beings. And Kobe is a prototype that basically everybody, as you're asking me, we marveled. We look for motivation, inspiration, and just the way he approached the game, just his demeanor while playing the game. These are the things that I watched, and these are some of the things that I had in myself. But then when you think about tough moments that we all have as athletes, and we want to push through, or we find ourselves in moments where we're looked upon to make big plays, you kind of think back and you kind of reflect, and you think about the greats that we have witnessed come through in the most triumphant of times. And so I was the same way when I was on the football field. I knew I wasn't Kobe. I knew I wasn't Michael Jordan. And I knew I wasn't Jerry Rice, who I played with, my teammate. But we always, for me, I never was a high school standout. I wasn't a high school star by any means. And I'll say the same for myself at the collegiate level. But once I developed that confidence, that confidence in myself, and I saw guys that were talented and they elevated their games that much more. When you talk about Kobe's and the Michael Jordans, and now we're seeing what LeBron is doing. You talk about most notably Michael Jordan and Kobe. They have that killer instinct, that mentality that you just don't see from certain athletes that we should see it from. And so, Kobe did it for me. Michael Jordan did it for me. I just saw guys that they didn't allow their athletic ability to just float through their years of playing. they basically pushed the envelope of what was inside their bodies. And you've heard Kobe say it many, many times, like he pushed his body to the limit.
What's that like in the mind of a pro athlete to really just say, you know what, I'm not just going to coast on my talent. I need more.
It's similar to what I have now when I speak to kids, and I have a clothing line, and the premise and backbone of my clothing line is based on my 3 Ds. That's desire, dedication, and discipline. Obviously, the desire was there. We know that with Kobe, but in order to get to where he is now, that legacy that we now know of, he had to dedicate himself, and that was a level of discipline that he had to apply to his game. You talk about, the 82 games plus the playoffs, how much wear and tear that is on your body. And for him to kind of, obviously take care of his body in that aspect, to get in cold tubs, make the time to do that, to recover. Not a lot of guys, not a lot of athletes are willing to go through that to become the best version of themselves. And that's what separates Michael Jordan and Kobe and the top 2 in ever to play the game between the next 3 and on.
And, you talked about the amount of pressure that pro athletes have, and especially that Kobe had on him when he entered the league, and how that pressure really just intensified throughout his entire career. And he's getting pressure from the organization, pressure to perform well on the court, pressure to be a great businessman. But the through line for Kobe's life was always his family.
And it doesn't surprise me. Yes, you have to allow a person to grow up and mature and become the adult and the human beings that they become. And we saw that with Kobe, and we don't know what entails or what goes on when an athlete goes home away from, what they're called their sanctuaries is the court or the football field, or any type of sport court, or whatever the surface is. We don't know what those, we don't know what their life is like, once they leave that and then go home to be a parent, a husband, or what have you. And so I'm glad that there has been a lot of light shed on who Kobe is. I just posted, I posted a picture on Instagram just moments before we got on here. And it was one of the last times that I saw Kobe in person. His daughter, Natalia, I think she was a junior at the time, and she played at Sage Hill, playing volleyball. She played at Sage Hill High School, and my daughter, who was a freshman playing on the varsity at Culver City High School, they played a volleyball match against them. And so I didn't know Kobe was going to be in the building. I was just being a dad, doing something that, I didn't have and didn't experience with my dad, but just being there to support my daughter, my kids. And so, man, I walked in the gym, and him and Vanessa, they were sitting up top. And so I saw him from across the floor. I walked over, and we just ended up talking, not about sports or anything, but we were just talking about our daughters and just being there in support.
Yeah, the way he carried himself with his relationships, whether they were personal or business, big or small, he really gave every ounce of his energy to every relationship he kept. And I think that's something that he gave to a lot of people. That's an inspiration that he gave to a lot of people. Is there anything that really stands out for you as something that you continue to take and incorporate into your own life that you feel like he was a big influence for?
I think about, kind of that mentality of, what Kobe would do, just forging ahead, moving forward, moving through things. And there's going to be, it's not going to be as designed. It's not going to be as seamless as we would like. And so, for me, that's how Kobe was. He had such a great gift and talent. And, there's a statement, and I think every great gift deserves or demands a great response. And that's really, in essence, what Kobe did. Especially for me, didn't have the expectations or the potential that Kobe had as an athlete. But my desire, my dedication, my discipline, and guys like Kobe and Michael Jordan, they helped me along the way. They pushed me to know that there's greatness on the other end of mediocrity.
With the 13th pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in